Placentophagy, meaning eating the placenta. Animals do it, some animals, so why shouldn't we? I'm very happy to welcome Shelby and Emma, who run a successful placental encapsulation business and are here to inform and intrigue. Listen up, how to eat the placenta. I have with me Emma and Shelby from Australia speaking with me today about placenta encapsulation. What is it? What does that even mean? Well, we learned about the placenta in last week's episode, and now we're going to learn all about encapsulation. So I always like my people to introduce themselves. So would you mind just introducing yourselves for our listeners?
Hi, I'm Emma Mogg, and I started Blissful Beyond Birth, the placenta encapsulation business, in 2016. And then that's about when Shelby and I became friends, and I'll let Shelby introduce herself now.
Hi, I'm Shelby Duggan, and like Emma said, I got into encapsulation through Emma. I was at her birth of her fourth baby where she encapsulated, and then we went from there. And I forgot what I was going to say. And I started encapsulating when I was on maternity leave with my son Max, and we are both certified through APA in America.
So is, just an outside question, is placenta encapsulation quite popular in Australia?
I think that just from what I've seen, it seems to be a bit more common in America. Australia they are catching on, but I think it's because Shelby and I talk about it so much that we actually realise how much people want it in our actual city that we live in. But it is slowly gaining more popularity, but I feel personally that it's not as popular in Australia as what it is in America.
I'll agree with that as well. I've just finished my midwifery degree, and I think in that whole time I only possibly referred 2 people to Emma that decided last minute to do it. It's more people who have been told by their friends or been educated online. Yeah, it's not something commonly asked for.
No.
Yeah, I think here in Canada it's become more and more popular. It kind of reached a peak a few years ago, though. I think it's kind of gone down a little bit now. But anyway, so for those of us who don't know anything about placenta encapsulation, what is it? What does it mean? What happens with the placenta?
In a nutshell, it's when you consume your placenta, and we make it more palatable in a way that you're not actually sitting down eating pieces of raw placenta. It's prepared in a way that it's dried and you can swallow it like any kind of supplement that you would get from a pharmacy.
Yeah, eating raw placenta does have that gross factor to a lot of people.
With the knowledge that we have gained from seeing placentas on a regular basis and know the benefits of it, if I was to have another child, I would probably eat a piece immediately after it's birthed. But that's just personally me. Shelby just shuttered, like, ugh, no thanks.
Well, I do know that a lot of midwives and lay midwives and traditional birth attendants do have that little piece of knowledge in their back pocket that a little piece of placenta, if there's some bleeding happening that you really can't control, little piece of placenta definitely helps. So
yeah, I'm not sure what culture that comes from, but that's a cultural thing. They put it in the side of their cheek and it's meant to stop bleeding.
Yeah, I remember my midwife that delivered my 3rd and 4th actually said to me that I could dip my finger in just the maternal side of the placenta to help with bleeding. With my 3rd, I didn't want to do that. With my 4th, there was not really much time. But with my first child, it's actually funny that the midwife offered me a knife and fork to eat some of my placenta, and I was repulsed by that idea. I thought, what on earth? I was 23 at that time and thought, no, I could think of nothing worse. Now I would probably pack a knife and fork in my hospital bag to do that.
So what are the benefits exactly?
Shelby, I'll talk for this bit. This is personal experience. So obviously there is limited research because it's mostly animal studies and it's really hard to do human trials. But personally for me, Emma encapsulated my placenta with my son, and I had so much milk. I think I donated over 50 litres in the first month. My hemoglobin, which is your red blood cells that carry the oxygen, I lost 900 mils of blood, and my hemoglobin went from 150 to 90, and just taking the capsules on their own, it went back to 121 in the 6 weeks where you have that recheck blood test. And I definitely didn't have any postpartum depression with my son. So that were the main ones for me. And I think I had an emergency cesarean, and my pain, I believe, was very well managed and people were quite shocked. And then I know for Emma, she only encapsulated with one of her children, so she can probably speak on the difference of her postpartum journeys.
So when I ended up with really severe postpartum depression after my second child, it was to the point where I didn't want to feed her. I was very disconnected from her, and that was managed with medication. And then didn't really have much issues with my third, but then with my fourth, it was a different kind of pregnancy. We didn't expect to be pregnant again. So my whole mindset was quite different, and I had peripartum depression, so depression through pregnancy with him. And then I decided to do a bit of research to try and help myself in the most natural way that I could, and came across placenta encapsulation. So the plan was sort of put in motion very early in his pregnancy. And then during his birth, every possible thing that could go wrong went wrong. I had a full placental abruption, so my placenta completely detached from my uterus, and Shelby was there to see all of that, and lost a fairly large amount of blood. But at the end of the day, that was actually the best case scenario for us. My son Wyatt was perfect. I was fine. Not taking my obstetrician was very supportive with the encapsulation process. His daughter was in England and had just done it as well, so he was supportive with that. And I encapsulated Wyatt's placenta, and I had my hemoglobin levels were back to normal within 5 weeks without taking any extra iron supplements. I didn't cry once. I didn't have any afterbirth pains. I had very minimal bleeding, and I had enough milk to tandem feed my toddler and my newborn. So for me personally, and from just other mothers' experiences with placenta encapsulation, the benefits seem to very regularly be increased milk supply, increased energy level and mood levels, as well as increase in your iron levels to help with the postpartum fatigue, which can essentially lead to postpartum depression. So that is the most benefit that I had from my personal experience, and why a lot of our clients do come to us as well.
And so you've heard a lot of positive. Obviously, it's only anecdotal evidence, but you've had a lot of that from your different clients.
We have. We actually have not had any clients that have not had a positive experience. It's always been, I felt so amazing. I had so much energy. I don't know why I didn't do this before. You know, it's always very positive. We've never had anyone become ill, because we've got so many hoops to jump through to keep our clients safe, like safe food handling. So we're very mindful of temperature control and time that we do steam and dehydrate, as well as correct storage for the placenta itself before encapsulation and also the completed capsules. So they have to be kept at in the freezer, which is essentially the best place to keep them.
So that was where I was going to go next. I was wondering what the risks are, because I know in our city, I think probably quite like all together throughout Canada, it's really hard right now during the pandemic to find a placenta encapsulator.
Yeah.
So, and obviously the risk, the fear is COVID, obviously, that somehow the virus is going to be, transmitted. And you just trained as a midwife, so you know that there are other not airborne, but more seriously bloodborne diseases that, most seriously HIV and hepatitis C. So how can you guarantee that those will not be transmitted through the encapsulation process?
Like the use of the same equipment, there would be no guarantee, like no 100% like most things. But when we trained through an internationally recognized organization called APA, which is also, you would have APA trained encapsulators in Canada as well.
Mm-hmm.
We sanitize with bleach. So it's, in Australia it's pretty much liquid chlorine. So there is a very specific mixture that we have to abide by, and we have to soak for a certain amount of time. The equipment that we use has to be rather streamlined, so we can't use steaming pots that have rivets on the inside, so to hold the handles and things on. And our knife handles are all stainless steel, like one-piece blade and handle. And everything that we have that we reuse for each placenta is all washed, sanitized, rinsed, and then air dried and stored in a container that nothing can get into it again. And then we use as much disposable equipment as we can as well.
And we both have done extensive COVID training, so we have done that through the government, and we just keep up to what's happening in our state. And then back to the HIV and Hep C, if we like to, we can encapsulate in their house instead of our own houses. But like Emma said, our practices from the APA training are so what's the word? They're so precise and thorough. It's a really low risk. And even as a midwife, there's always that risk, but it's just called standard precautions. There's actually no extra precautions for HIV or Hep C, because you should be protecting yourself from that anyway, as if the patient was an unknown source.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We treat each placenta as though it is infected to keep ourselves safe and to keep our clients safe and our future clients safe as well. APA actually added an extra module in their training for COVID. And now when we do book in our clients, we ask them if they've had COVID during any part of their pregnancy, as well as the last time they tested positive and a current negative test.
Well, that sounds really thorough. So what kind of geographical area? Like, obviously you can't have someone coming with a week-old placenta. So what's your geographical area that you would serve as a placenta?
We work in Toowoomba, so we're sort of the bottom corner of Queensland in Australia, and we can service that area. Anywhere that we can get to in a certain amount of time, we can service. If it's also on a time frame too, so the placenta will need to be refrigerated from about 2 to 3 hours maximum after the birth. And the hospitals here have actually been fantastic with us. We have our own special fridge at the public hospital, and the private hospital has individual fridges in the client's rooms. And if the client would like to encapsulate but can't get to us in a certain amount of time, usually 3 days or 72 hours post-birth is when we like to start or need to start the process. if it's going to be past that 72 hours from birth, it needs to be frozen. And we can encapsulate a frozen placenta up to 6 months old. So it just needs to be consistently frozen.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that. So can you tell for our listeners, like, you don't have to go into detail. You don't have to tell us the recipe or anything, but what do you actually do with the placenta? Let's say a baby's born and you get the placenta the day after. What exactly happens to it from the placenta into the capsules that you present?
So we'll go and collect it directly from the mum, usually just because she's in that recovery stage. Then we take it home and we'll start to prepare it in her chosen method. So Shelby and I are both trained to do the traditional method, which has a steaming step, and the raw method, which is safe for mothers who are not colonised with group B strep at the time, and also if baby hasn't passed meconium during the birth. So we can do a raw start with that, which is just washing the raw placenta, and then we slice it thinly as we can, and then it's dehydrated for 24 hours. And then the grinding process comes in after that. With the traditional method, we do the washing method first, like we'll wash it and we will then steam it for 40 minutes minimum. And that's when the mum can decide if she wants to have the warming herbs added, which are added to the water only. They're not actually on the placenta. So they're things like lemon or lemongrass, chilies and ginger. And I try to source them locally from farmers that grow their food in the area, because we've got some really incredible food producers here, so, and lots of organic things too. So we'll do that, and then the herbs are removed prior to slicing. So we'll slice the steamed placenta, and then it's then dehydrated for 18 hours minimum, and that's at a constant 71 degrees Celsius. And then it's grinded after that. So from the grinding process, it will then get put into our 00 size capsules, and then we store them in the freezer until we can get them back to the mother, usually within 24 hours. And then the mother is then instructed on how to take them, how to store them, if there's any issues, to call us, to be mindful if she's taking iron supplements as well, because it can lead to constipation, and that's the last thing you want after you've just had a baby.
And the other thing Em didn't say, before we prepare the placenta, we do offer photos for the mums where we will put the cord in a nice shape or the letter of the baby's name, and we do prints as well. So that's all a part of our basic package.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, the capsules we do all individually by hand, and you can get anywhere from 90 to the last placenta I did was 207, which was my biggest year. Yeah, it was a big baby, big 10-pound baby. So the placenta kind of matches the baby weight. I think it's meant to be about 1/8.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, there's the yuck factor. And but then there are also some other criticisms that I've heard of encapsulation, eating the placenta, which has that lovely name, Placentophagy.
Yes.
So some of the criticisms are that basically the whole question of postpartum depression and increasing milk supply, which are the two main things that really seem to be the benefits of encapsulating, those things can be provided by, let's say, the village. Like, postpartum depression is often really linked to isolation and alienation, and achieving a good milk supply can often be achieved also by having really good support and postpartum help and all that. So what do you say to those criticisms?
In a social sense, I do agree with that. Having that disconnection from someone when after you've had a baby, especially in the time we are in now where everybody is feeling isolated and you've just had a baby, you do want support, but you also, in some countries and some states, you can't have people in your house. it is very isolating, and it would honestly be a massive risk factor. And that's why I think that people really need to start thinking about finding trained placenta encapsulators, just to try and not cure or avoid, but try to take the edge off that sort of feeling that is going to come. Because I don't know about Shelby, but when I did take a capsule from my placenta, within 40 minutes, I could feel a relief. And some might say that's a placebo effect, but some days it was, if I didn't have it, I would have a very down day, and then, I'd take my capsules and then I would feel better.
I just want to add too, with encapsulation, it can give a little sense of support and community as well. I know, just like when Emma did my placenta, I saw her the day after I'd had Max, and she was so happy and so excited, and she went over my placenta with me. And then when she dropped the capsules back, she came for a chat and looked at my baby. She even showed my husband and all his friends the capsules and the prints. So in a way, it can add a little element of support and excitement as well. Well, it definitely did for me, and I know Emma's like that with all of her clients, not just me. And I try and meet my mums and their babies as well if they're happy for that to happen. So I guess it does add an element of support if they're willing.
Yeah, I think we need to start thinking of the village in a more virtual sense, which it hurts me to say because I am a very people person and I do like that personal physical connection, but at the moment we can't be like that. So a virtual village is probably the next best thing, and it can still make you feel disconnected because as humans we're pack animals and we need to be near other humans. But if we have that virtual sort of doorway where we can still talk to each other and we connect with our placenta clients to see how they're going, to see if they've got any questions. I have got a fairly large sort of knowledge of the postpartum community in this city, and I can connect them with other women who offer different services that might try and ease that kind of feeling. And a lot of other encapsulators are also massive birth nerds, and they've got that kind of community knowledge behind them as well for that area. So having a village is a really important part of your postpartum journey. So I think we just need to start thinking of our village as more of a virtual kind of area now.
I think that's so true. And you just made a really interesting point about why encapsulation, especially now, would be so important. I'm actually struggling right now because I was doing some prenatal preparation with someone who lives in another province. So here we're in very serious restrictions, and we cannot travel. I cannot travel to see her. She just had pretty traumatic birth experience, and is kind of suffering postpartum. And there's nothing I can do besides just virtually, make her feel better. So try anyway. So that is really interesting, a really interesting point.
It would be hard for someone with caring kind of personality to try and nurture someone virtually and not in person, because there's just a different kind of connection that you have with someone when you're in person. If you're virtual, especially empaths, they really need to try and learn how to project themselves digitally to their clients or the person they're trying to care for, which it can be difficult if you're not used to that kind of thing.
It can be very difficult. And the fact is that this post in particular, just for example, I think would have benefited greatly by having someone like you come over and get the placenta and then come back after a few days and give her the capsules. And then whether it's placebo or not doesn't really matter at that point, to be honest. If it's helping, then whatever it is, right? And sometimes someone just really needs someone to be there and be there physically.
Yes.
So next question though, about encapsulation and possible not risks, but possible, I don't understand in my mind, I'm trying to work through it. Lotus birth. So
Wonderful.
do you have to choose Lotus birth or encapsulation, or?
Yeah, so with this one, obviously a Lotus birth, for the people that don't know what it is, it's where the baby's born with placenta and cord still attached to mum and baby, and placenta, not to mum, sorry. And then you keep it there until the cord naturally dries off itself, which with some babies can take 7 to 10 days. So obviously we can't do it in that case, but what Emma and I do offer, not that we get any Lotus births, they're not very common, we offer that we could cut some of the placenta off so they would have what's called a partial Lotus birth. But yeah, like I said, we've never had that.
I wanted desperately to have some form of Lotus birth with my fourth, where I guess kind of did, but it didn't really happen, where I wanted Wyatt to be born and his placenta to be born, then we can cut the cord. And that didn't happen because it just went south so quick with the abruption. But that's what I wanted. And we do have, in a sense, it's delayed cord clamping with a bit extra step. So the placenta and baby are both born. As long as that placenta is in the fridge within the 2 to 3 hour time frame, it's fine. If you've got a really crafty client who can organise some kind of portable freezer to clamp over that placenta for the 7 to 10 days that it's going to take to dry off naturally, then you could have the Lotus birth. But I don't know if there's that kind of thing. But
no, I've never heard of it. I mean, carrying a basket around is challenging enough for most mums. I don't know about carrying a portable freezer around.
No, and I don't think that you would want to eat the placenta after that amount of time out of the refrigeration, because there's a lot of herbs and salt and things that go on the Lotus placenta. So no, it's not safe. But like Shelby said, we can remove a piece of placenta. Any piece of placenta is better than no piece of placenta, in my opinion. If you're going to have a little bit, then have a little bit. If you're going to have a lot, then do the lot. But if you want to have a Lotus birth and encapsulate, there's going to have to be some kind of compromise. Yeah.
Compromise. So
it's common in your area, because I don't think we've had any.
Well, they're quite common amongst the people that I do prenatal preparation with. There's a small but growing group of mums that are taking birth into their own hands, and they tend to do Lotus birth.
Yeah.
We
get a lot of questions about cord burning, and that's fine. Still encapsulate. We offer the mums, if they don't want to have a cord keepsake, that we can encapsulate the entire placenta, cord and all. I've only ever had that once. The mum consumed every last piece, so that was quite beautiful. But yeah, there's a lot of questions about when it's safe to encapsulate, when it's not, what drugs they've had during birth, if they've had an epidural, if they've had a C-section, all those kinds of things. And it's all fine to encapsulate with, and cord burning is absolutely fine as well.
And what's the limit of the age of the placenta in terms of like how long the umbilical cord is left intact for encapsulation?
You can do delayed cord clamping. You can leave the placenta attached and the cord attached to baby for the 2 to 3 hours.
Well, I've seen cord burning done after 12 hours. Would that be okay still?
No, the placenta would have to have been removed and stored safely. So
the limit is about 2 to 3 hours then?
It is. For safe consumption, it is.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear this, because that's the other thing, like placenta encapsulation, you get the kind of idea of, which is in the little cauldron, so the fact that you're so scientific about it and, careful is...
I think for a little while there I did give off a bit of a placenta witch vibe until people started talking a little bit better. But, yeah, it's all... We try to encourage our clients to ask us questions, any questions they like, no matter how silly they may seem. they're all important questions to make a decision, like doing placenta encapsulation safe for them, and to let that sit with them. And
I just want to go back to the community question just quickly. With our packages, Emma and I have just started thinking what we ourselves as new mums would have liked. So we've actually, we're this year trying to get out when we drop off our tablets, a little package that has some affirmation cards that I have made, and we've got some amethyst crystals because they promote protection, calming and healing. And then we're in the process of making our own essential oil blend for a new mum. So we're really trying to roll out the New Mums You're Awesome community as well. We're trying really hard in that postpartum period to make it better because we know how hard it can be.
Yeah, it can be really tough. Really, really tough and isolating. So all the lovely gifts and presents presents in both senses of the word, the gift presents, but also your own presence is so important for a new mum.
It is. It's very important.
So I always ask my people to leave the listeners with one word that they can give out into the world. So I'm going to ask that question of both of you. You get 2 words since there's 2 of you.
Ooh.
So, and it's not just about placenta encapsulation, because clearly you do much more than that. It's about, birthing in the world as it is these days. It's about how do you support postpartum mums. It's about, living through what we're living through. So what would your one word be?
Have you got a word, Shelby?
I'm just going to go with the first word that came to my head, and that's empowerment. Just empower each other, empower yourself. That's it came straight to my head, so I'll go with that.
Yeah, I like that. Mine would have to be calm.
Oh.
Yeah, be calm. All these things, they have a process to go through, so you need to be calm while they're happening and accept that they're happening and feel what you need to feel at that time and try and be calm, and that will make other people feel calm. And I like calm, empowering and calm.
That sounds good. That sounds like a great combination, and I think it might possibly be both of you in the world as you working with new mums.
Yeah. We're very, we're both in the very baby world. So Shelby being a registered midwife, and I'm a non-diagnostic ultrasound tech, as well as the placenta encapsulation. So we've got
and your jewelry.
And my jewelry. I do the DNA jewelry mostly for my placenta and scanning clients. So we're sort of really spread out through the baby world, and we really do just love being with new mums and being with pregnant mums and going through that process. And, it's not always joyful, it's not always happy endings, but we're always there with them. So that's what we that's why we're together, like not together, just that's why we're business people together. So
wonderful.
I'm sitting
Thank
here
you so much.
and then rub Shelby's belly because her belly's very pregnant and she's having lots of contractions.
Oh, nice. It's I didn't imagine that when I was talking to you both. Lovely.
I'm 38 weeks.
Oh, well, good luck.
Thank you.
And all the best. And we'll all be rooting for you by the time everyone listens to this. That's wonderful.
Yay.
Thank you.
Hopefully baby will be here.
Yeah. Well, one never knows.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives. 3 podcasts in our mini-series on the placenta. Introduction to this marvelous organ, Lotus birth, and placental encapsulation. Feel free to share the series in a course or with your friends. The placenta is an organ we should all know more about.